All right, hello and welcome back to the latest edition of the Omni Talk Fast Five. It is July 9th if you're watching us live, and July 10th if you're listening to our podcast at home while you're working, whatever it is that you're doing. I'm here as always with Ann Mazinga.
Hi, how's
How
it
you
going,
doing?
guys?
It's going okay. Emma, how are you? Emma, the intern, is here as well.
I'm good.
And I am pumped. We have a special guest today. He occupies what I would call a placer in our hearts. And
Oh my God.
wows me weekly. And that is the VP of Marketing for Placer.ai, and that is Ethan Chernovsky. Ethan, welcome to the show.
Hey, Chris, thanks so much for having me. It's great to be here.
Yeah, no, we're excited. I know a lot of our loyal followers have seen the work that we've done together, going on almost a year now.
Yeah.
And it's driven a lot of interest. So it's fun to have you on. We'll get some good chit chat going here. And so you're calling in from Israel, right? So where are you exactly?
So I am based in our Tel Aviv office in Israel at the moment, right out in a suburb right outside of Tel Aviv. But bringing an international flavor to the show today.
Exactly right. What time is it there?
It is 6:30.
6:30, and it's about 10:30 right now here in Minneapolis as we record this. So awesome. Well, it's good to have you, man. Hey, before we get started, tell people a little bit about Placer. What is it?
Sure. So Placer AI is a location analytics and foot traffic data company. And what we do is we leverage AI and machine learning to show what is happening offline at any location anywhere in the United States. So we love to say that people vote with their feet, and our platform is showing you how people are voting every single day.
Yeah, you guys have, I think I put it out on social probably about 100 times now, but the new tracker, what's it called? Square, it's called the Square tracker, right? And, and you can see anything there. Like I literally look by day. Bed Bath had their announcement yesterday. I'm looking at their traffic by day. I'm looking at Macy's. I'm trying to figure out what's going on. Like what's captivating your mind right now out in the industry?
So I think one area that I'm really excited about, and I think that there's a tremendous amount of potential is this home goods space.
Okay.
So, this kind of initial spike of interest around like home improvement and the Lowe's and Home Depot, seeing that move to, Tuesday Morning, At Home, Bed Bath & Beyond, Pier 1, like even though some of these guys are closing, that's a really interesting trend that could have some real carry over the next few months.
Yeah, that's interesting. I know we're going to talk about off-price here later too. I think it's like headline number 2. So we'll get to that too. You had a cool piece, I thought, this week on kind of New York. And, the whole idea here for me was like New York was, hit with it very hard in the beginning with the pandemic. And then they've slowly started to reopen. And so they kind of went through everything before everybody else. So you should be able to use them kind of as a litmus test to see how things are going to recalibrate. What are some of the early things that you were seeing that you talked about in your article this week?
So I think the early signs from New York, and New York is so critical because for a lot of these big brands that we love to talk about, it's in that top 3 or 4 states in terms of the number of locations. Mm-hmm. And so anything from a Starbucks to a Costco to even kind of the off-price brands we were talking about, that's where they have such a large density of stores. And so when you see it start opening, that's part of the reason that you're seeing this uptick for a lot of these brands, even though in other areas of the country like Florida or Texas, things were the virus was resurging and, people were a little bit more hesitant to go out. So it's a really important state. I think they're being really careful about how they roll things out. Right. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out over the next few weeks.
Yeah, and that's a tough dynamic. I know you and I are always talking about that offline too, about like just how many stores are actually open across the country, across all these chains. And you guys are tracking that on a pretty regular basis too in the data that you have as well, right?
Yeah. I think it's, an offline store is so dependent on being open. And that's such an obvious statement, but in today's current environment, it's such a critical thing to remind people of. So when we look at brands that are quote unquote underperforming, it's like, yeah, but California isn't open and they have 1/3 of their stores there. So obviously they're going to feel that pain a little bit more. And I think it's going to be really interesting is do we see, especially these real nationwide brands, do we see them start to disperse themselves more and try to not have that same center in just a few areas?
Interesting. Have you seen anyone try to do that yet? Or are you thinking that's just kind of going to be a way people try to approach this problem as we move forward?
Not yet. I mean, we'll see where these,
Take some time.
these guys are announcing that they're closing stores. So where are they going to close stores will give us a really good indication. And, Nike said they were going to open 200 stores for the next few years. So where those stores come, that'll be a really interesting sign of how this might progress.
Yeah, and probably dependent on how things still play out. Yeah, absolutely. All right, well, let's get to the show. We've got Emma in New York. She's back home in New York. And you're in Third House, right?
Oh, I'm here.
Third House is open. We are open
Third
for
House
business.
just opened this week. Yeah. Yes. So if you're in the Minneapolis area, you are looking for a workspace, or even more importantly, if you're trying to plan your Q4 strategies and tactics after the few announcements we have later in the Fast Five today, we are open. We have a ton of space that can accommodate large meetings too. So if you want to do those in person, we're here to help you out.
Yeah, if you need 6,000 square feet of open space to have a strategy meeting about what the hell to do around Black Friday, as we'll talk about in headline number 5, Third House in Minneapolis is the place for you. All right, let's get to it. So first, our sponsor for today. Our sponsors, of course, Takeoff. Takeoff is transforming grocery by empowering grocers to thrive online. The key is micro-fulfillment, small robotic fulfillment centers that can be leveraged at a hyper-local scale. Takeoff also offers a robust software suite so grocers can seamlessly integrate the robotic solution into their existing businesses. To learn more, visit takeoff.com. All right, I've got headline number 1 here today, and I think this one's huge. This could be the biggest possible announcement. At this point, it's a rumor, but possibly the biggest rumor of 2020, and that is that Walmart will now launch its Amazon Prime competitor in July. So according to who I always call the indefatigable Jason Del Rey of Recode, Walmart plans to launch a new subscription service that it's dubbed Walmart Plus, and it'll cost $98 a year. It'll include perks like same-day delivery of groceries and general merch, as well as discounts on fuel at their gas stations and also early access to products and deals. Now, keep in mind, Amazon Prime members currently pay $119 per year and Amazon has about 150 million users globally, but Walmart Plus rumored to be $98 a year. All right, let's open it up. What do you guys think? And let's start with you.
I love it. I mean, finally, I feel like this has been the week of Walmart again, where we could just do stories entirely on Walmart. But I think that what we're starting to see here that's really magical is finally Walmart Plus is giving people a reason to get the subscription service. You're starting to see content, including original and shoppable content that, Walmart's never offered before in their partnerships with doing this camp collaboration and then bringing on the head of Tribeca Film as a consultant in the types of curated videos and movies that they're showing in their drive-ins in the Walmart stores, which is another brilliant idea. Like, way to go, Walmart. Way to use your space to the fullest extent and really give people a reason to stick with you. But then I think you start to look at other things like the healthcare facilities, health insurance that they're starting to get into. And when you look at the marketplace that Walmart is building, I mean, their partnership with ThredUp alone, they're starting to give people access to better brands and to more brands. And then to cap it off, you have the, thousands of stores around the country that they also have to connect to this to the Walmart Plus program. So I was a little hesitant earlier in the year when we started talking about it, but I think now they're really giving you a reason to sign up and to subscribe.
Yeah, that's right. I remember we debated this, probably it was like March or April or February or whatever, when it was rumored to happen earlier in the year. I'm sure the pandemic's changed all that, but yeah, you were a little bit different on it. But yeah, it's seemingly of late. I mean, Walmart is figuring out how to use the stores, quote unquote, as it's the center of its omni-channel flywheel. And that is just something that Amazon can't touch. And even if they want to, it's going to take years for them to build that out infrastructurally. So Ethan, what are you seeing in terms of what's happened with the pandemic, traffic to Walmart? What's your perspective on this story, given what you see day in and day out?
I think Walmart is such a giant and such a strong player in this space that no one comes near, that essentially anything could happen other than the complete abolishment of offline retail and they would still be strong and fine.
Right. I think interesting.
I think the only thing that when you think about something like this and like how are they gonna move into this really digital space of, the membership program is how do they do it in a Walmart way? Because I think if anything, you think about like the Jet acquisition,
Right.
the elements, there are clearly benefits of that, but the elements that didn't work were they tried to bring in something that wasn't them. So long as Walmart stays Walmart, I think they can do whatever they want and they'll do it well. If they move away from that, that's when they're going to find trouble.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. And that's what we always say. I think that's what I always write in my writing, which is, you have to stay true to the brand promise. And what's the brand promise, right? It's save money, live better. But for $98, man, you can get a lot of scale in how you can help people do that. Whether it's like, food pickup programs for people that maybe, are disadvantaged, through the store on their way home from work. It's like Ann said, like, how do you entertain the kids with the camp program or the parking lot movies in this store, the healthcare facilities. They also need, I don't know if you guys saw this today, but they're also getting into health insurance plans now. They confirmed that rumor as well. Yeah. All of this can be an extension off of this. And all of it is with the store as the center of the flywheel. Emma, what do you think? Gen Z perspective, Walmart, New York. Kind of a different vantage point for you than everyone else.
We don't have a Walmart anywhere near me here, and I have never been to one in Minneapolis either. However, I went to one in Michigan, and I was like blown away. I was like, why am I not shopping at Walmart? And I've never been much of a Walmart or Amazon person, but like Walmart was just amazing. So I'm definitely all for this. And I think it might actually be something I sign up for.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna have to write about this. It's so funny you said that, Anna, because one of the things I wrote the title, I'm gonna save that because I can't tease that one because the title's important. But I think what I'm gonna write in the piece is actually, who needs to be scared about this is actually Target, because it takes the expect more, pay less angle of what Target does and puts it in a different lens through the digital activation of it. And Target probably, quite frankly, needs to start thinking about that to a greater degree than it has. Now, it's done that with all its omni-channel capabilities, but that's fulfillment. That's great. But what are all the other things that you can do to defend yourself against what is going to be Amazon and Walmart continuing to put the pressure on what they can do through these membership type programs? All right, well, let's go to story number 2. This one has been a hot debate across Ann, Ethan, and myself for many weeks now on social media. So this one's going to be fun. But Emma, why don't you kick us off?
All right. Harrods, the iconic London department store, has opened its first outlet store while laying off hundreds of staff. So during the shutdowns, as one can expect, unsold goods piled up at Harrods' million-square-foot flagship store in London. So they decided to open an 80,000-square-foot outlet store to sell an edited version of the brands available at the original site. And, we've all been seeing this trend for months. And I definitely love the off-price concept. I definitely think if you have all this merchandise that clearly isn't going to sell at full price, like you might as well do some kind of off-price outlet concept. But at the same time, I'm starting to question, is this really going to work? Is this going to save these businesses in the long run?
Yeah, exactly. And I think the other point I'd add too, I don't know that they have a choice, right? I was reading some of the statistics and some of the articles here, like their typical space in Knightsbridge is 1 million square feet. They get 80,000 people a day into that space. And normally for them to move through all the clearance they have in the store, it takes them 4 weeks with 80,000 people going through that store. The report I read also said that right now they're capped at how many people can come through the store, and that's 4,500 people a day.
It's madness.
Isn't that crazy?
Have you guys been to that store before?
I have.
Yeah, I used to, when I lived in London during college, I lived across the street. For some reason, they thought it'd be a good idea to set up a bunch of college kids in Knightsbridge, which was a terrible place for us to live.
Awesome.
But it is way too high end for a bunch of kids that were just trying to buy, Newcastle 40s and hit the tube and go somewhere else. Even I'm curious what you think about this. I've been having some conversations with people. We had a Third House member in here, Brian Landon, this week, and we were just talking about the idea of if all the department stores are just starting to go this way, if they're not able to be successful as a department store at full price, do you think we're going to just start to see all of these department stores turn into off-price department stores?
So first of all, I think the dynamics in England are fundamentally different than in America. And I did my master's there. I lived there for a little while. It's a different place and there's a different culture and it's wonderful, but it's different. I don't love everyone going off price. I think the guys who do off price really well, really know what they're doing and they're all in on it. And there's no games. They know how to nail this. It's the same thing we were saying about Walmart. I worry about people trying to go out of their comfort zone as opposed to find innovation within it. And so, take Macy's as an example. Did Story, was it the greatest idea in the world? Was their market idea the greatest idea in the world? Maybe not. But I don't know that I care. I'd rather see Macy's innovate with ideas that feel like Macy's than try to say, all right, how do we create our own Burlington or TJ Maxx or whatever? And I think those are the ideas that tend to last the longest and be the most exciting for the customers who already have a relationship with the brand.
Yeah, it's a great point. I mean, it's a whole different muscle memory to do that business well. I mean, I was talking with somebody about that last week, a mentor, like how you procure the product's different, how you merchandise the product is different, like your whole supply chain is different. Like you can't just do it because you want to. I think you're right. We go back to what's your brand promise. I think the sad reality though, or the layer I would add to it is I feel like even though we're all saying that, you're going to see retailers do it. Like you're going to see retailers gravitate towards it because they just need to clear through the price, and dropping price is a great way to move through volume. It's not actually that dissimilar to like what happened as Walmart started to build their super centers in the 80s, and what happened with Kmart and Sears and how they responded. And so now I think you're going to see everyone move that way and respond. And that's just going to be who can do it the best. Ethan, what do you think?
So I'll tell you, this is fresh off conversation and has no backing whatsoever.
Perfect.
So
good qualifier.
Take that into consideration. But I want to know who's going to go into the mall with a department store-esque concept, whether it's going to be a Target or a Walmart or somebody else, because space is going to be cleared, the rents are going to be cheaper, someone's going to take a chance. And a lot of these brands have such great relationships with direct-to-consumer brands. You could create this insanely cool mall experience, and whoever does that first, that's the one that I'll be cheering.
Agree. And go. Yeah.
Oh, I was just going to say, my guess is based off of the reports by 2025 that CNBC put out that we'll need $1 billion square feet of warehouse space for all of these warehouses, that will be a key component of those malls filling those anchor stores. But simply speculation. I think one other point that I want to make is if we do see the retailers, I know that they're not, so Macy's, they're not the TJXs of the world where they're saying, we don't care, we're not doing e-commerce. The question that I want to raise to you guys though is they do have all of this product that's going off price online. So if they do decide to go into this off-price sector, I mean, we look at Nordstrom Rack, like there is something very valuable to being able to still have that thrill of the hunt. But, if we look at turning the TJ Maxx's or the Macy's, if they go to the Macy's off-price brand, to be able to even have those locations as pickup centers or some place where if you can't go in the store, Macy's or, Nordstrom Rack, all these other department stores are going to be able to do that and survive where a TJ Maxx or a Ross store might not be able to do that.
That's a really good point, Ann. I mean, I think, and the question of how well Macy's can do that too, I think is probably still Nordstrom's for
fair.
Sure. Like how well Macy's should be able to stand that up quicker than a TJ Maxx or Burlington, to your point. But that is the big question. I mean, Ethan, I talked about the tracker before that you guys put out. That's the thing I'm watching like a hawk is like, these companies have said, we're going to stick with stores. We're not going to build out our digital capabilities. And as there's all this inventory to liquidate and we don't know who's going to be able to open and how much people are going to want to shop, that's still a big question. Are you seeing anything that points one way or the other right now on what Ann's talking about and how that's going to play out? Because that is interesting. It's a strategic angle of how someone could attack this market over the next year and a half opportunistically.
Nothing yet, meaning like the off-price guys are doing really well, especially, relative to the environment.
Their trend is surging, right?
Yeah, their trend is surging up. The only things that are impacting them are states having trouble, like so COVID resurgence.
They're still below baseline, but it's because of state
but it's working
openings.
its way really, really quickly towards that level. And again, it's the New York, Texas, California, Florida problem of most of these brands have most of their stores in those locations, and so you're always going to see that be the area that always, whenever COVID has this kind of resurgence, that's where it's going to have its impact. But I love the fact in some ways that Burlington says we're not going to have e-commerce, because I want, when Burlington does e-commerce, I want it to be Burlington style e-commerce. I want them to say, here's where you get, we don't have this item that you'd want. Here's a station that's set up where you can easily find it and then maybe deliver that to your house. but not this. I don't want them to run into the muck of now needing to deliver and dealing with returns and dealing with all the distribution questions that come with that. I think that process of do things in the way that fits you is a weird random example. But look, Chick-fil-A, how many people have said you can't be successful if you're not open on Sundays? And they essentially have stuck a finger up to the entire fast food industry and said, no, we're going to succeed by doing our thing really, really well. And actually it's going to help us. And so that's where I'm like, where I fall in love with brands is where they really embrace their promise and deliver on their promise.
Yeah, and we said that before this even happened, before the pandemic even happened. That was kind of my take too. Is like, Burlington, good for you. Like, if you don't know the answer, don't go spend a lot of money trying to figure out a stupid answer. Like that doesn't make any sense either. The cool thing about COVID is I think it now makes maybe what that answer could be a little more apparent. But lastly, to close, I think back to your point, Ethan, too, about, what happens to the department store. Let's bring the Amazon conversation into this again, dynamic into this conversation. There's been the rumors of JCPenney's, there's been a rumor of Macy's. The question I would almost throw out there is, are we looking at a reinvention of the department store? Or are we looking at a reinvention of the mall, where the mall acts almost in the same way as a department store through Amazon's back end and their fulfillment technologies, to your point, and too, I think that's where I see something headed, or some enterprising VC could come in there with some money and get some people to try to figure that out. It's ripe for the taking, though.
Yeah. Do you want to see Amazon buy someone, though? I mean, Amazon bought Whole Foods. Is Whole Foods better, or is Amazon better as a result?
I think that's a great question. I don't necessarily want to see them buy the brand. I think I'm more just interested in them buying the real estate and starting to leverage their power to do that, I think is where I would put that. And anything you'd add there?
No, I was going to jump us to the next story. I'm sorry, Ethan. I totally cut you off.
No, you want to keep us moving along?
I'm just trying to keep it spicy, because I know that if we start talking about Amazon and JCPenney again, it's going to get into this. We're going to have a totally different podcast.
It's going to get saucy. All right. Anne's just really anxious to talk electronic payments.
So anxious. Nothing gets me going like electronic payments. So story number 3, Venmo has announced that they're piloting something called business profiles, and they're going to let a limited number of users, including sole proprietors, casual sellers, and users with a side hustle, to create a different Venmo profile that will help them accept payments for the goods and services. So right now, Venmo also offers, they're going to let you do QR codes for touchless transactions. You can have a customizable business page with this. So it's similar to what small businesses could do on, say, a Square platform. Venmo is going to allow you to have a business profile within the kind of social feed as people are paying you. So I posted about this on LinkedIn this week. I love this for the gig economy. Are you guys using Venmo for like outside of just peer-to-peer payments? Have you guys used that at all for like haircuts or tattoos? Tattoos.
Mrs. OmniTalk uses it all the time. She used it for a Facebook Marketplace transaction the other day. But Emma, you're 60 years younger than me. Like, you probably use it all the time, right?
I do use it all the time. I'll do it. Like, I follow one Instagram account, which is like a trade and sell clothing. Use it for that. I've paid for like house plants via Venmo before. I mostly use it peer to peer, but I have paid businesses with Venmo. Did
you say you paid for a house plant? Is that what you said? I just want to make sure I heard that right.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Things I did not know yesterday.
Was that through a seller directly on Instagram, Emma, or was that through like Facebook Marketplace?
It was actually someone selling. They set up like a table on campus to sell their plants just outside of their dorm and asked for Venmo.
It's amazing. I mean, go ahead, Chris.
No, I was just going to ask Ethan. I know electronic payments are very different over in Israel too. Like, how does this play in for you guys over there, this type of store?
I mean, there's a lot of them. And then, so, I mean, I don't really use Venmo, but like, I'm old too. So like, I mean, so I don't know. I think it sounds really cool. I don't have a great opinion on this. So I just agree. I'll agree with Anne.
And what do you think from the perspective of like a small business? And always agree with Anne. It's a good strategy. You can never go wrong with that. What about from the perspective of small businesses, gym ownership, things like that? How are you thinking about it?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the benefit here, like I said, going back to the alternative for these small businesses, say that you have a chair at a salon. I mean, the benefit here is that you can you can leverage. I mean, Venmo has a huge social interaction. Every time you pay somebody, that's posted in a live feed. So anybody that's in your list of contacts, you can see who they're paying for the haircut. And now that you give, for the haircut example, now you give a salon owner or someone who owns a chair in a salon the ability to get exposure on that through that social interaction. They can go directly to the page, and then the salon chair owner is not paying the fees that you'd pay with a Square. It's like, I think they said that they're going to do like 1.9% fees for all the transactions that are happening through this business Venmo platform. So it gives people a lot more flexibility. You don't need to have a bank account set up. You can, all of your money can just be fed directly into this Venmo account. And then all the accounting and back end stuff for taxes is handled separately too. So I think it's going to be very valuable, especially right now in this economy, as people are getting their own side hustles and work going again.
That's a fascinating angle. The social dynamic of it is something I hadn't even thought about or considered when reading that story, like the 2 or 3 times that I read it this week. Awesome. All right. Well, Emma, let's keep it rolling. Let's segue into what is more possibly millennial and Gen Z news, and that has to do with Instagram.
All right. Instagram is swapping out its activity tab for the shop tab in a small global test. So your activity tab usually sits on your navigation bar as a heart, and for some people, it's going to switch over to Shop's shopping bag icon. And from there, users will be able to filter products by categories as they can today via the existing shop experience within Instagram Explorer. Your activity tab is still going to exist. You just have to do a little digging on it on your profile page. And so this doesn't sound like much, but it's actually a really bold move on Instagram's part. That activity heart has been in that place since the beginning. And in terms of a test, I think that this is actually a really cool way to see how much usage Shop is going to get. And it's just really forcing people to, experience the Shop concept. However, I'm kind of skeptical. I don't really like that they're moving the activity tab. I just don't think, I think it's really forced,
Ooh, say more. Why? What is the downside of the movement of the activity tab?
It's just like, Instagram is social media. It started out for social media, all about making connections with people. And your activity tab really kind of does that. It lets you see who's interacting with your post. And you used to be able to see what other people were doing that you followed. And when you move it, I think you're taking away some of that like connection and social media experience and forcing the commerce aspect onto people.
And point of clarification, right? It's just being moved. It's not going away. They're just moving it to a different location within the app, right? Like that's really important. Yeah. That's interesting to hear you say that. I'm curious. Ethan, you're an Instagram guy, aren't you? You have like all these secret Instagram follows, I bet. Like what's your kind of Instagram usage here?
I have multiple children. I am not cool. I find no value in Instagram. I know, sad, but it's just the case. What I do worry about is, first of all, I always loved Snap in this battle because I felt like Snap was innovating faster and Instagram was just, catching up or kind of stealing ideas. So I always kind of put my hat on the innovator. But then even more, like, one of the big mistakes that happened when Facebook kind of first came out or became like a real business is people doubted the long-term longevity of the actual business. But they forgot that your audience gets older and doesn't leave channels. And so the value I bring to Facebook now as, a 30-something-year-old adult is much more than as an 18-year-old, kid. And so I feel like Instagram, don't push it. If you have this amazing audience that loves the app, that doesn't want to leave, that wants to have this great experience there, it should be the center, because the business opportunities are going to come. But if you force them, you're going to push people away, and there's other options.
That's really interesting. Okay, so the last 2 points are really interesting to put together too, because I actually would argue, and we'll go to Ann next on this, because I would actually argue this is endemic to what people want from Instagram. We ask this question, what's your favorite social app, at the end of every Spotlight podcast we do. And the answer is almost now becoming universally Instagram. And when we double click in and we ask why, usually what they say is it's become the replacement for my magazine. Like it's become the replacement for Vogue. It's become the replacement for, fill in the blank. And that's how I curate, everything that I want to see in there. So what I think is interesting that they're now, not only are they allowing Shop in there, they're going to do curated collections from there. And it gets on to this point that we've talked about where it allows them to take a personalized editorial point of view towards merchandising to that mindset that people are endemically in around discovery and inspiration, which has never yet happened in the world of e-commerce. It's still completely untapped ground. So that's the angle that I think is there as well, which is probably why I'm more on the fence of loving this move. But Ann, what do you think? Am I nuts, or are you kind of more where kind of Ethan and Emma
You guys,
roll?
this is game over. This is game
Wow.
over. This is shopping as we know it. This is a 100% personalized, and personalized not just like for Ann in 2020. This is the stuff that I want to shop. This is personalized to the in real time shopping experience for me. I mean, I'm already looking at, you're scrolling through your Instagram account, and how many times does it happen to you guys? I mean, for me, it's at least once or twice a day where I'm scrolling through and I happen upon something that I just posted about last week. I wasn't looking for a new work bag. I'm coming into the same place every day or working from home, but suddenly I see this Rebecca Minkoff bag and I'm compelled to go into it. And I find myself, 5 minutes later in my cart with a Rebecca Minkoff bag and wallet matching set, because I've been inspired. I've been this is discovering product that I didn't know I needed. And especially in a time when we're not able to physically go out shopping, this is shopping coming to us in a very personalized way. And so this is so much more than a UX update for Instagram. It's
interesting. Yeah. Wow. Interesting. The LinkedIn chat are starting to go on the other side of us, Ann, on this one. So this is fascinating.
Oh, no.
Yeah. The LinkedIn live chat. This is fascinating. But yeah, I mean, do you think too, like they have the Shopify integration? I mean, the other thing is you stay in platform now to shop through Instagram.
There's a point of clarification there too, because not all of this shopping section is going to happen inside the app right now, which I think is a really good thing to call out, because that does kind of get away from the whole point of staying in app. But
it does, yeah.
Why
but it'll
is it
hopefully
more difficult to engage as opposed to more difficult to shop? So I guess the question is, if I'm the type of person who says, I want to buy something. Oh my God, I'm inspired by this. I'm probably willing to do a click and a click. Whereas if I'm there to like interact with people, and I'm that younger generation, which is what Instagram is chasing. Instagram and Snap are both going after this TikTok audience, because that's where their money's going to be made in the long term. And if you lose people because you've made it more about selling something than giving me the experience that's fun, I think you're gonna regret the move.
But one other clarifier there though, Ethan, is that this is a separate tab entirely. So this is going into the mindset.
I don't know
I want to shop versus, well, no, I think that
which you qualified in the beginning very well. Yeah, that's fine.
Well, I think you're
Facebook
right though.
Could, in theory, work the same way. So it's not, and it probably will. So I think we should just keep that in mind.
But Ethan's right. I think it changes the dynamic if instead of just, following and connecting with one another, which is what I want to do in one mindset on one page of Instagram, if they started to penetrate that to a point where you don't get to see that, you're seeing ad after ad after ad, it's not going to be a good experience. Ethan's right.
And you have to when you put like a personal note, like, oh, happy birthday to whoever, and I want to tell you how much I love them on LinkedIn. And you're reading it, you're like, this is really sweet, but it doesn't belong here.
Yeah.
It's like, it's do things in their right place and people will find them and embrace them.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think the one thing I would add too, and when you and I thought of this morning in preparation, like when you and I were running Store of the Future, one of the things I used to get really frustrated about is people would say Amazon was not a personalized experience to me. It was and I always argued with them, because what I would do when we were running that project, I would actually just go on Amazon and see how well it knew me. And it would serve up cool stuff for me. I just go onto the homepage. And now you're basically saying, Instagram, do that, and you can do it even better because you know me so much better than Amazon does because of how I'm scrolling through everything. Yes, and as long as, Ethan, to your point, as long as you can keep that UX, and Dan listening on LinkedIn, as long as you can keep that UX working well, which God knows they're going to QA test that forever, I think it can work. So, all right, well, let's segue to Amazon to close us up. There are leaked emails that are indicating that Amazon is now planning Prime Day on October 5th. Business Insider acquired a company email that supposedly went out to third-party sellers telling them to hold the date for Amazon's next Prime Day. Holy cow. What do you guys think? Emma, you gearing up for Prime Day, October 5th?
I've actually never even looked at Prime Day before. And
oh my God, we
I
live
guess
streamed last year. It was fantastic.
I'll have to give it a go, see what's up.
Nice.
So, yeah.
Ethan, how will this impact what you guys do and how you monitor traffic? Like, how are you thinking about this already? This has got to be a big deal for you guys.
So, I mean, the genius of Amazon is that they view things holistically. And so what we were looking at, we looked at 2018 on Prime Day. Whole Foods had all these great campaigns that would integrate that whole experience, and nobody else did. And then a year later, Walmart dove in and Target dove in and a bunch of others. And you see these spikes in offline traffic because of Prime Day. And so it's one of my, first of all, it's the Amazon as the king that it is in terms of creating a holiday that they can dictate when and where, and we'll all go along with it. And then it's so strong that I can as Target or Walmart say, it's my competitor's made up holiday and I'm going to benefit from it.
And now, does that rationale require that your stores are open and running at capacity, or like how does the factor of the pandemic play into that for you?
Ooh, I don't know. It'll depend on where we are at that stage. Target and Walmart, I mean, Target's already up year over year again. So like, I think they'll be in a good stage and Walmart will be in a good stage. Some of these kind of mall oriented retailers that might have had campaigns around it, maybe it's going to be a little bit more difficult.
Yeah. And then I think the other trick is October 5th is a month away from Black Friday. So, and like, what do you think in terms of the Black Friday impact, both online and stores, to what Ethan's talking about?
I don't know. I mean, first of all, I just feel like we need to take a moment of silence for all those poor merchandisers and buyers out there at Target and Walmart who are just like, what? I can't possibly do any more. And now I'm going to have to try to figure out Amazon. Yeah, from home. Now I'm going to have to figure out Prime Day in October. I mean, here's the thing. I think the economy is still going to play a huge role in whether or not this has the impact, I guess, that we all think it's going to. And I say that because of a couple of things. I mean, there's a Black Friday angle. I think we all know it. We're going to have the holiday this year is just a big open question mark for a lot of people. What people's spending power will look like in October versus, what it would have looked like in July right now, where people are still getting added unemployment benefits and have some extra cash flow. I think it's going to be a very different picture in October. And especially when you start to look at, Emma's generation, and they are buying experiences. And when you can't buy experiences because you can't go to a lot of places, there's not a lot of money being spent on travel. Will that, help Prime Day and help these people spending more money on things like they're getting Apple AirPods for, Christmas or Hanukkah instead of getting an experience? I don't know. I think, the economy for me is the number one thing that's going to play into this. And then secondarily, I think just shipping and what happens. And I honestly don't know how that is going to play into being able to, for these Amazon Marketplace providers, to be able to make Prime Day successful in October, especially if there's a second wave of the virus that time of year too.
Yeah, I mean,
I said a lot there, but there's a lot of things.
You did. There's a lot there. I mean,
kind of a mind flow of like just all of the things that.
No, it's an important story. There's a lot on your mind. It makes a ton of sense. I mean, I went on record and predicted that Amazon would actually do this and preempt Black Friday with a Prime Day 3 years ago.
Right.
Now, this is partly probably a pandemic response, but also from a strategic perspective, it's not a bad move to delay this and put this right before Black Friday. And so you have to start to wonder. It's a wake up call, I think, for the whole industry of like, okay, what the hell are we going to do? And we can't just keep thinking stores are going to be open for Black Friday. We can't think the crowds are going to amass the way they used to, and that we're going to be able to drive that volume. And you're right, Ian, like if I'm a buyer trying to figure this out, boy, I'm in hell right now. And my heart goes out to all of them.
Right.
So I keep saying, and I will keep stumping this, and I know you put it on LinkedIn too, which is take the strategic point of view of what do you do if your stores aren't open and how do you respond? And that's what Amazon is. That's how they operate day in and day out. So how are you going to respond to that if they start to take Black Friday away from you the way that you used to know it? I just read an article this morning. Live streaming in China. Retailers are doing 70% of the volume they used to know prior to the pandemic just through live stream activity, not counting e-commerce, not counting anything else, just through that. So how do you as retailers, I talked about this with Retail Dive on a webinar on Monday, How do you as retailers mash up e-commerce, live streaming, deal buys like you used to see it, like Gilt and everything, the fever that comes with that, curbside pickup, concierge shopping, and make that all happen by day for the next 2 months from October through December to figure out what the hell to do to move through some units and to do it in a way, to Ethan's point, that works with your brand, that stays with your promise, but also means something to your consumers. So I think they've got to wake up, because this could be really damaging if stores aren't open. Ethan, final word as our guest.
I mean, I obviously think Prime Day is like a huge play. I just feel like the one thing we forget is how hard it is to do online well, because the distribution is so unbelievably difficult. And so if you're a retailer and you are not heavily oriented and ready for, or your e-commerce operation is not hugely profitable, you need to figure out a way how to integrate that with your offline presence, which is what you were talking about with Walmart. Curbside pickup, it's brilliant. The ability to tell someone what I want and then to do that delivery for me, some concierge service. These are the types of moves that for many retailers who can't get their act together from a distribution perspective in the next 2 months, that's going to be, how do you maximize the end of this year? We'll come on to that.
Yeah, great point. The words I used to describe it in the piece 3 years ago, we made the prediction, was death blow for those reasons. And the image, I used the GIF, the image was the Death Star destroying Alderaan, because that's how quick and fast it could happen. And especially now with what's happening with the pandemic.
Is that quick and fast for those of us who have no idea what the Alderaan is?
Alderaan, when they blow up the planet,
thing.
And Princess Leia has to watch her planet blow up. But
sure.
Thanks for always bringing it back.
For the non-Star Wars people out there, just giving some context. Thank you.
If you're a non-Star Wars person, what's wrong with you?
Star Wars and Instagram, I don't have anything.
Right?
We have to plan cultural references next time as well.
That's right. We'll highlight those first. But hey, that was awesome. We really enjoyed having our guest, Ethan Chernovsky, the VP of Marketing at Placer AI. Ethan, if people want to learn more about you, where can they go next? You guys have a cool webinar coming up too, right?
We do. On Tuesday, we have a webinar with Deborah Weinswig from Coresight Research. That'll be really amazing. We're going to look at the biggest trends for the next year. Come visit us at placer.ai. We have an amazing section called The Square with all of our free tools that Chris was mentioning. And if you want to reach out to me, Ethan at placer.ai. And guys, thank you so much for having me. I'm like a regular listener. This is so exciting to be a part of it.
Yeah, this is awesome. We'll have
fun
to do it again.
It was fun to move it from our LinkedIn chatter to a real live format. So thanks for joining us, Ethan.
Yeah, always need more people ganging up on me. It always makes for great conversation. I love it. But hey, for all of you out there, thanks for sticking with us. If you're watching us live, we appreciate it. If you're listening to us at home, we appreciate you as well. If you haven't done it yet, please remember to like, review, and subscribe to our podcast, and to listen to them wherever you listen to your podcast. And as always, be careful out there.